first person to ask this, but is HEMA, Historical European Martial Arts, Bullshido? So recently there's been a little bit of drama in the Historical European Martial Arts community. Somebody in a competition was tackled to the ground, sucker punch, struck in the side of the head and knocked unconscious. Apparently the person who did this had very good reasons for doing it. I'm not going to get into those or who I think was right or wrong in this situation. I wasn't there. If you were, cool. But a storm of partisan opinions about historical European martial artists being softies because, you know, they're unwilling to take a punch to the side of the head, and the fact that we don't teach training and all this kind of stuff came out. And it sort of raised the question about historical European martial arts and whether or not it's bullshido. Is it bullshit? Is it even a martial art? This question's come up a lot in the past, and I don't think that we had any satisfactory answers. So, if HEMA's not a legit martial art because you're not teaching people to take a punch to the face, then what's a legit martial art? If your idea of a legitimate martial art is one where you're teaching people to take a punch to the side of the head, then that means that, like, judo is not really a legitimate martial art, right? So you have these agreed upon rules you go into, you know them before you enter into the competition. Imagine if in the judo Olympics, like, you just suddenly smash somebody in the side of the head and you go, wow, you're not legit. You're not as legit as I am. I'm absolutely an advocate for teaching your students how to break fall or teaching yourself how to break fall, because even in competitions or even in sparring situations where takedowns are not really something that you're going for, people still hit the deck. They trip, they lose their balance, all of these kind of things, and you need to learn how to fall safely. I'd also say that grappling is very much something that you should teach, because otherwise when people get into close measure they might panic and start causing some real harm. But even in boxing, which is pure striking martial art, there are still weight divisions which we don't have in historical European martial arts because the sword is an equalizer. There's a big difference between taking a punch from somebody who's like 8 stone and will get knocked over by a stiff breeze and then getting smashed in the face by somebody who's like 14, 15, 16 stone, like rugby player, American football player, or boxer. So it's all about expectation, the rules, and really speaking, what kind of conditioning is realistic. Another thing is equipment. We're wearing gauntlets. Okay, fine, they might be hardened plastic, but you don't really need to know how to punch properly when you turn your fist into a giant plastic mass you just smash people in the face with. This is a big problem for me in the HEMA community. I keep seeing these comments of like, what's your HEMA rating? All right? Oh, it's low, or you don't have one? Cool, you clearly have no knowledge to impart. Don't speak to me. Okay, but then what you're doing is you're pretty much dismissing Matt Easton, Keith Farrell, Jake Norwood, Bob Brooks, David Rawlings. You're saying that none of these people have anything of value to impart because they don't compete or they're retired from competing? Custamato, who was the coach for Mike Tyson, Floyd Patterson, Jose Torres, was not a fighter himself. Each of these fighters has gone down into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, but by your logic, because he wasn't a competitor, he had nothing of value to impart. The other thing is, your HEMA rating is such a fragile peg to hang your hat on. If all you're going to do is turn up, win a couple of competitions, and then leave, your mark on the HEMA community will be as though you never existed. You'll be marked as inactive after a couple of years, and then it will be as though you'd never done anything. If that's not necessarily what defines the martial art, what does define a martial art to you? Like, genuine question, let me know in the comments, because this is honestly something I'm really fascinated by. I've said this before, but if you get 5 different martial artists in a room to describe what they think martial arts are, you'll probably come away with like 5 different opinions. I often hear the whole, does it work on the streets? And unfortunately, HEMA, unless you're on the mean streets of medieval Florence, maybe not. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA is legit because they're beating the shit out of each other and they've got cauliflower ears and they're constantly weighing themselves and they compete. I agree. I think they're phenomenal, right? I absolutely do. I've trained a little bit of MMA. I didn't continue because my coach kind of, I don't know what happened to him. I think he was abducted by aliens. Like, seriously, he just like vanished, gone. Like he gave me back the money I'd paid for the sessions for that month. Gone. Never saw him again. If you know what happened to him, right? I love jiu-jitsu. I love the history of it. I just got back from Japan, right? So like I think that it's metamorphosis from like this samurai martial art to, you know, to what it's become as part of Brazilian jiu-jitsu is absolutely fantastic. Is it legit? Can you use it on the streets? Well, yeah, definitely. But I would say that the stuff that I learned in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA was always within the context of competition. It was always one-on-one. There were always rules. I remember having a discussion with my BJJ coach about like, I went from one hold to another, and he was like, make sure you take their back first before you do that. And I was like, isn't it more efficient to just kind of like choke them out? And he was like, yeah, but it's worth more points if you do this. So that's kind of like building in an inefficiency that has come from competition. Anyway, the point is I was taught how to fight, but not when to fight, right? And I feel that that's genuinely important. So Tai Chi, is that a legit martial art? You know, it's all gentle and they're not really doing conditioning, and it's like it's a bunch of old people and there's no competition aspect to it, or very little competitive aspect to it. One of the things that I was taught in Tai Chi was patience, discipline. I was also taught, at the very least in the classes that I used to go to, like how to spot somebody who might be a little bit of danger, and you know, the best defense is no be there, all that kind of thing. So whether or not it can help you in the streets, I've definitely gotten out of one or two scrapes just by kind of like being aware early that there were situations that I wanted to avoid. Now, Tai Chi does get a bad rap because of people claiming that they have chi powers and they're knocking people over with their magic abilities and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, Aikido gets the same thing, right? So, unfortunately, Steven Seagal is their spokesperson. I would imagine that they don't actually want that anymore. Like, you know, there are always bad eggs in every martial art. So through Tai Chi, I got a lot of character development, and I learned a willingness to de-escalate certain situations. So what about HEMA? If it's not about the competition that makes it a legitimate martial art, and if it's not going to help you on the streets, then is it Bullshido? I think that HEMA's incredible. I've bounced around a lot of different martial arts. I've landed on this one because it's like, I don't know, this is the thing. This is like when Harry Potter picks up the wand and then he starts glowing and it's like, oh, there we go, that's the one. That's it, right? That's what HEMA is for me. And I feel like it deserves its own identity, distinct from things like Kendo, modern Olympic fencing, Buhurt, and it doesn't have that. Probably because we're still very young and we're all kind of figuring out what this is. But another major reason is that I feel like we're all pulling in different directions. Now, some people seem like they want to imitate the kind of thing that we see in MMA and in boxing and the training that goes with it. And that's cool and all, but if we're imitating something, then we're just going to be an imitation, right? We're not the first mover, and I think that we have something that's more special than that. If we view martial arts as something that allows for character development, that allows us to see the world through a different lens, then HEMA can definitely be that thing. For some people, stepping into a training hall for the first time is going to be the biggest obstacle that they ever overcome. People who are suffering from trauma, who have confidence issues, or who suffer from requiring additional needs, either physical or mental, like, that's going to be a big, big step. And if we dismiss these people because they don't want to compete, or because they're more interested in the history, or they're better coaches than they are competitors, then we're going to spend a long time playing catch up to the rest of the martial arts world. But that's just one man's opinion, and I am willing to fight you over it. If you want to leave your comments in the bits where the comments are, you know what to do. Hit like, I don't care. If you want to subscribe, fuck it, whatever.